Welcome back to the next video. Today we're playing a visual novel called Six Rules. I installed this game like a month or two ago. Just now getting to it. I don't remember if there's any horror aspects to it or not, but well, I want to see what happens. Hope you've all had a good Thanksgiving, and let's get into it. Begin. The noble Japanese clan in Minamoto, with its centuries of heritage, had quite a few strict rules. You must not let any strangers into the house, preferably not even into the forest in which we reside. If you spot any strangers loitering around the property, alert us immediately. You must converse with strangers as a gesture of friendliness, but never tell them where the house is located. We are hiding for safety after all. Do not accept things from trespassers. Do not give things to trespassers either. Never, I repeat, never talk to those of the Taira family. Got it? Do not trust the Taira clan. Okay, so these seem like 6 rules we are going to break immediately. If we have the option. The young Minamoto no Ryuji never knew what was so serious about the 5th rule that it had to be repeated twice, but he obeyed them all unconditionally anyway. Being born to the Minamoto family warranted at least such dutiful behavior after all. He had learned not to ask questions, because every time he did, his father would burst into a rant, and it would take at least 10 minutes to subside. Okay. Minamoto. Look, child. I've told you. The Tairas humiliated and killed Lord Tamayoshi in cold blood, even though we begged them to show mercy. We will never forget what they have done. They are conniving and manipulative, and will do anything to reach their goals. They humiliated. I cannot English. They humiliated us, and we will not forget it. It's because of them that we have to hide here like cowards, but we will not hide it much longer. As part of the Minamoto clan, we have to fight. We have to fight against injustice, and for the honor of our family. I will have honor. His voice has been exasperated. It was his usual, "Don't you dare speak another word, young man, or risk my battering cane voice." And so the boy had scooted away, half wanting to ask them how they could possibly fight against them without having to break Rule 5. Who knows, maybe fighting did not really need someone to open their mouth. All hail honor. Perhaps if he had known Lord Tamayoshi well enough, he would have grieved. His father certainly did, but back then, Ryuji was too young, still was, to comprehend his pain. Ryuji longed for peace. If there was a way to prolong this tranquil, ideal lifestyle, he would. If by following those rules he could protect this life, he would. A portrait of Minamoto no Makoto hung over the mantelpiece, right outside the door to the boy's room. Every night before retiring, he would see that gallant face and stare in awe. He wanted to be just like him, he thought. Just like his ancestor, scholar, artist, war veteran, and even an able leader, kind, charismatic, admirable. He did not know when he started having these thoughts, but ever since years back he noticed that he was too young to unnoticed. He had way too many older brothers and sisters to be thought of as anyone special. Naturally, with his own friendly smiles and polite mannerisms, he grew to be a favorite child among the adults. Still, though it only last for as long as he was a child. His name was written at the bottom of the scroll always. He couldn't help but fear, what would happen once he grew up? What if he grew up to be a nobody? In the end, that portrait was the only thing that kept him motivated to stay awake. To become like Minamoto no Makoto. That became his one and only dream. He grew up with that ambition in mind, which motivated him every day. Slowly, he crafted another side of himself. One which would smile like a cute child in front of the adults in his clan, and another which would sneak out of the house once in a while. Searching for a high and windy spot close to nature, a wide open space. Maybe somewhere where he'd be able to think of his dreams. Even in the middle of the cold winter, pushing through the hedges excitedly, he reflected on those valiant ambitions. Crunch, crunch. Ah yes, stepping through the snow. Who knows, maybe my soul's there. Layers and layers of snow crushed beneath his feet. It was a nice sound. Minamoto no Makoto was a man who appreciated the sound of nature, his father had once said. Well, he thought wistfully, so am I. In his heart, there was nothing greater than the shining figure of hope he gave himself, the figure of a successful and heroic ancestor, the man who could achieve happiness both for himself and everyone else. I'm getting the strange vibes that Makoto was only seen as a good man by this family, and that the rest of the world may have seen him as something a little darker. He was a legend, one that the Minamoto clan would remember for years to come. That's why he never missed a day of practice, never missed a single day of studying, just so that he could prove himself worthy to be the scion of Minamoto no Makoto. The winters were mild in Japan. Nevertheless, when snow fell, most people would have common sense to stay indoors. That day was one of those days, yet despite the cold weather and the steadily falling snow, he did not break his tradition. Every month, every day, he would do it without fail. The wooden katana-shaped bokuto, hanging at his hip, made a pleasant clickety-clack sound. With scrolls tucked tightly under his left arm, he pressed forward. Wow, if only in some of these other games I had a katana like this. Maybe, just maybe, I could hit my enemies over the side of the head with it. On the path among the trees he walked, pushing branches out of his way until he reached that familiar clearing, which was one place for perfect self-improvement. Yes. Oh, except this time he found someone else already there. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day. Then you can become like Minamoto Makoto. You must not let any strangers into the house, preferably not even the forest where we reside in. Remembering that rule and feeling a strong sense of pride, he clicked his tongue annoyed. The forest belonged to his family, the aristocratic family of Minamoto at that. Any trespasser deserved to be beheaded, though surely Ryuji himself was not that cold-hearted as to insist on something like that. Surely, since his family never put up a gate or any other form of security to prevent intruders, it could be argued that you could not possibly call any Tom, Dick, or Harry who stumbles in by accident a trespasser. Still, he was irritated at the thought of one of these precious golden rules being broken. Stomping on the ground as hard as he could to assert his superiority, he decided to confront the intruder, but stopped himself at the last minute. He gulped and sighed. It was only a young girl, perhaps 9 or 10 years of age, sitting on the cozy bamboo swing, fast asleep. Her long dark hair cascaded down her back in stark contrast with her white skin, the snow around her, and she was decked in beautiful snow-white kimono. A lacy parasol lay on the ground beside her. In the end, he could not dare to disturb such a white, picturesque scene, and slightly berated himself for even considering appearing superior. After all, Minamoto did not discriminate, unless it's the Taira clan, who this person is probably from. As that's how stories progress, it was not as if he would be unable to ignore the presence of a sleeping girl. With that, he moved silently to a corner and began to open his scrolls to read. No, it was simply getting much too cold. He couldn't help but glance, grumbling at the girl taking the spot on his favorite swing. Usually, Minamoto no Ryuji was a boy with great thirst for knowledge, yet today he was unable to absorb a single word. Perhaps he was not in the mood to study, he told himself as he put his scrolls down and prepared his bokuto for practice. He swung it aimlessly around a few times and gave up, angry at himself. Just in case we get an option to, I don't know, break the rules. He lowered his sword, sighing. His performance was much poorer than the day before, With no other changes around, he decided to attribute it all to the girl's presence. As he folded his scrolls, he pursed his lips and thought. The reason why he would put in extra effort to go out of the house was because he enjoyed nature, and he enjoyed the breeze. But most of all, he enjoyed his time alone. For another person to be here, sleeping or not, his own world had been pretty much invaded. There was no way he could concentrate. He might as well have been home, listening to the endless jabbering of his brothers comparing their sword skills over a flame. Grumbling incoherently, he sat on a log that was covered with a thin carpet of snow and fiddled with the hilt of his katana. Not used to staring at people, he averted his eyes from the snow-white girl and looked up towards the similarly white sky at the steadily falling snow. After a couple minutes, he decided to pack up and go home. Just as he turned to leave, he felt a small tug at the back of his clothes. Ryuji jerked around immediately. There was the snow girl, wide awake, almost completely white from head to toe, save for her dark hair and eyes. He stared at her, not sure what to say. You were awake? She shook her head slowly. There was almost something mechanical about her actions. Just woke up. Saw you there. Thought I'd apologize for intruding. Her voice was slow. It sounded as if the snow had chipped her sentences up. Ryuji flushed. He had no intention of blaming her, and her apology felt utterly awkward. No, I do not mind that at all. You can stay for as long as you wish. Her eyes widened in fear. Ryuji, curious, looked around frantically, just to see that what the girl feared was the sword at his hip. He let out a low chuckle. Don't worry, it's just a fake. A fake? Yes, a fake. It won't hurt you. Don't worry, I will not be swinging the sword at your face yet. You are not a demon. As far as I know. She glanced aside. Were you leaving? Certainly he planned to leave, but that was only because he decided that training was impossible today, and because there was nothing better to do here anyway. In the end, he decided to tell the truth. Ah, yes, I was. But since you're awake, mind telling me why you were here in the first place? I mean, I was just curious, that's all. He certainly hoped that he didn't sound as if he were interrogating her, and was inwardly relieved that she did not appear to know that he was a Minamoto. The snow girl seemed like a terribly fragile doe that would take off at the slightest hint of hostility. She would definitely have run away had she known that the boy before her was an aristocrat's son. It would be pretty upsetting if he had made the young girl run away like a small woodland creature just because of his identity. But she did not look all that perturbed. Like a crystal statuette, she just stood there in her frost-laden winter clothes, not even lifting a hand to brush the snow off her shoulders. No, accident, thought I rest. Was she telling the truth? He didn't know if she was lying, but he brushed away the possibility as being quite improbable. The snow girl seemed terribly pure and honest. He just couldn't see himself to doubt her. Yet, why would such a young girl be out here, alone? After all, her clothes did not look like those of a peasant, and she certainly should have guardians. Ryuji did not know any of the questions in his mind, but one thing was certain. If he did not take care of this lost girl, then who would? Dude, you're gonna break the first rule, and I'm not even making that choice. No need. There's something very crisp and simple in her curt response. Came out to explore. No need to be back home until evening. I will be fine. Inwardly, he was glad that the girl didn't seem so used to people. The reason why he even left this house in the first place was because he was tired of the excessive noise and merriment in his own house. What you be doing then? It's cold and it's pretty boring out here. I don't think it's boring. She looked down at her shoes, pursing her lips. Ryuji gave her a light smile and patted the snow off the log next to him. The girl looked at him awkwardly. Then she walked over, taking her time, and sat gingerly on the log next to him. My name is Ryuji. What's yours? Normally, it was courtesy to introduce himself by his surname, but he didn't think she would mind. She turned to him, surveying him with her glass-like eyes. Ryuji? Yeah? Minamoto no Ryuji. Ryuji stared at her, a little taken aback. How did you know? I'm correct, right? Well, yes, but how did you know that? She pointed at his kimono. The crest on your clothes. Ryuji flushed furiously. Certainly the crest of Minamoto was still embedded on his shawl. He felt like a fool. Forget I asked that. The girl gave a small hint of a smile. Okay. So what's your name? Yuki. Is that your given name? Sort of. I like the snow. Ha, no surprises there. Why? You just look like the type. But I never told anyone. Never mind that, so why do you like it? It's cold. Is that a good thing though? I thought most people normally like to stay warm. It's hot at home, like a furnace. Tell me about your home. It's too colorful. Is that a bad thing? There are too many colors. The snow is just white. It's nice. Ah, you're the opposite of my soul. You like pure white, I like pure black. She sure was strange. That wasn't something he could really associate with. After all, I like colors though. I was actually dismayed when I realized it was getting so snowy. The space looked dazzling in autumn. All reds and yellows. He gave a small sigh. But yeah, I guess it gets tiring sometimes. I think you're happy. Well, yeah, I am. Kind of. Yuki stared at him, tilting her head, and gave a small smile. Okay. Ryuji looked wistfully into the horizon. It's getting late. You should leave now. Are you sure you don't want me to take you home? There's no need. You should go home first. Well, I'm not going home until I make sure you're going to be alright. I'll take you out of the forest at least. It's fine. It's not too hard to get out from here. Are you sure? She nodded. She then patted her dress and stood up. I'm leaving. Thank you for talking to me. Goodbye. See you again. She didn't respond and disappeared into the trees. Ryuji watched her leave and turned in the other direction to head back. But this time, Ryuji skipped home with a spring in his step. Yuki, huh? It means snow. Such a lovely name. Such a surprisingly suitable name. Coincidence? I think not. Minamoto did not expect to see her again. But then, there she was, seated at the wooden swing, staring glassily into the distance. It's called the first rule. The first rule was do not let anybody into the forest. And he's definitely breaking that rule. You moron. In her white hands was a wooden flute, and she was puffing her cheeks up and playing a simple tune. The moment she saw him, she turned towards him and tilted her head. He could have sworn a hint of a smile appeared in her face for a second. Hello. Hello, Minamoto no Ryuji. Are you here to read again today? Surprised to see her taking the initiative this time, he shook his head immediately. No, I just thought I'd be able to see you. He realized what he said, flushed furiously at how cheesy a statement must have sounded. Idiot, he berated himself. She's a girl. Don't you know that such a thing would be completely and utterly inappropriate to say to a woman who isn't your fiancée? Maybe in this day and age. But in the modern era, nobody cares. However, Yuki did not seem taken aback at all, and he sighed in relief. So anyway, you play the flute? Mama taught me. Oh. Your mother taught you. Maybe she's the one who killed Makoto. They spend most of the time teaching my brothers. Okay. I mean, it's not like they never talk to me or anything. They talk to me a lot, actually. It gets tiring. That's why I like to come somewhere quiet. Then you should really shut up. It feels better, don't you think? The next minute, a silence felt icy cold. Finally, Yuki whispered something. It was not loud enough for him to make out the words, so he turned towards her and questioned. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What'd you say? Did you tell your parents about me? Huh? No. I see. If you spot any strangers loitering around the property, alert us immediately. Suddenly he remembered that rule. Yuki's question had unintentionally reminded him of yet another rule he had just broken. He hadn't thought that he'd break any more rules after his first, but he had to, for fear his parents would probably forbid him from entering the forest if he alerted them. Still, she did not know about the rule. Why would she ask such a question? The icy feel vanished as fast as it had come. Yuki was looking down at her shoes again. Just worried about people talking about me. Oh. Ryuji laughed at himself for his excessive paranoia. He chuckled, tickled by her bashful appearance. Still, the nagging feeling in his heart berated him for breaking 2 family rules in just 2 days. Don't worry, Ryuji. You're gonna break a lot more rules. It's probably gonna cost either you or your family their lives. Sorry, I just thought of how I'm breaking all these rules, that's all. You were laughing at me. No, I wasn't. She turned away and started staring at the pile of snow beneath the swing. That wasn't good. He needed to flash his charming token smile again to bring her out of her shell. He didn't mean to brag, but everyone loved his smile. All the adults called him a little angel child. His smile wouldn't anyone's trust, even that of adults. Stop making that face. What? I'm not making any faces. Your face. You have a really suspicious looking smile. No, I don't. I'm just being friendly. She gazed at him again with that very critical look. He gulped. Her expression was mostly blank, though, and slightly bothered. You should go home. It's snowing. You can't train or read. But I wanted to take a break for the day. Take breaks at home, then. It's better. What are you doing here, then? Shouldn't you be taking a break at home? I like the snow. Me too, so I'm staying here. Yuki gave her another critical stare, and Ryuji held his hands up as if to show he's unarmed. Hey, don't worry. I'm not trying to kill you or anything. Finally, she turned away and gave a curt nod. Don't be so cold. If neither of us want to go home, we'll both be stuck here until one of us does. Okay. Where are you from, anyway? Japan. Heh. Best response I've heard all day. Oh, that's great. I'm from Japan too. I never would have known you were from the same place. She looked away again and eyed the dense foliage vacantly. He looked up in an effort to seem occupied and noticed that the sky was turning dark. Well, I guess I'll need to home now. Will you be here again tomorrow? Yes. Is your house nearby, in this forest? Yes, it's just a bit off that way. You are an idiot. Breaking 3 rules in just 2 days. Just what was wrong with him? He clamped his mouth shut before he did reveal anything. It doesn't matter, nobody will ever know. Alright, we're going to save off here, the 3rd rule. So, I feel like we're halfway through the story, somehow. But man, my boy Ryuji has decided to break 3 rules to try to catch a girl. There's no reason to do that, you idiot. I hope you have all enjoyed your day. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. If you didn't, thanks for watching anyway. Pretty interesting story so far. Although I much prefer RPGs. Who doesn't like running away from murderous psychopaths? I will see you all in the next video. And, as always, goodbye.